So the horse I'm going to be trimming today is a gaited horse, and her hooves have come a long way since I started working on her. I'll probably put a little picture up in the corner so everybody can see what they used to look like. And when she's growing, her hooves in the area of the toe like to grow really long, like you can kind of see right here. In this area right here is where she's starting to self-trim, so she would really like to continue that forward till about here. So that's one of the visual guidelines I'm going to kind of go by when I start working on her hooves. And we'll go to the back hooves. Normally I just show the fronts at this point, but she gets really long toes on her hinds as well. It's digging into the dirt a little bit, but you can kind of see how long the toes are. So this horse, when she came to this home, her back was really sore, and we found out that it was basically all coming from the long toes on her hind hooves, which I'll probably put another picture up here so you can see what they looked like again. I wanted to do a quick body shot of this horse too. You can see, like, she's kind of just stood that way herself, but she's standing pretty square, and most importantly, her hind legs are not tucked up under her body. She's standing with them out behind her a little bit. She used to stand with them really tucked underneath her, and her front feet too, and we call that stance goat on a rock. And it was all coming from the long toes that she had on her front and her hind feet. Alright, so the first hoof I'm going to work on is this right front hoof. I'm going to make sure I pick it out pretty good. Like I said in a lot of videos, I don't really want the dirt and debris dulling my tools. And if you accidentally get a rock in your nippers or catch one with your rasp, it's really detrimental to your tools. So I'm taking off the area that I think should be removed first, and with this horse on all 4 feet, it's most likely going to be her toe, because that's the area of hoof wall that is longest. I'm going to take a little bit of height off of these heels because they're pretty high too, and this horse has a lot of good soft tissue depth in her heel area, so I can pretty much take the heels down where I would like them to be without worrying about dumping her on a heel that is weak in that area. And after I finish resting this toe, you're going to see that there's actually still a lot more to remove to bring the toe back and in. So I'm going to do a vertical nip with my nippers to remove that excess material. Now that's starting to look a little bit better. I'm kind of nipping back to that area that I showed originally when I was showing the top view of the hooves. You can see right here, this is that area that was self-trimming that I pointed out. I'm going to take a look at her frog because she's shedding some of her frog. We recently had quite a lot of rain, and before that we had kind of a drought period. So the horses got these really hard hooves that held on to a lot of this excess material, like this excess frog that I'm removing, to protect that area of the hoof. And now that it's gotten wet and the ground is soft again, the horses are letting go of all that material. So I'm seeing a lot of sole shedding. Even on her right here, there's a little bit of sole coming off that chunk right there. And there's some next to this bar. So I'm going to bring that bar down a little bit further. Take some of that lamina off that's laying over. And I want to check my balance in the heels. Looks pretty good. So I'm going to kind of take a few more swipes. Don't want to leave those heels too tall. And then kind of bevel my wall. Make sure I kind of smooth this area out back by the heel so there's no rough edges there. Smooth it wall up through the toe quarters. And I think I'm going to finish the rest of this hoof from the top. So this horse has some pretty nice feet now. So while they're pulled forward on the stand and I'm sighting down the hairline down through the hoof wall to the ground surface of where this hoof loads, there's no flaring, there's no dishing. This horse is on really good nutrition, so we don't seem to get much deviation in the hoof wall anywhere. You can see there's no real big lines that would show that some sort of inflammatory event had happened. She doesn't really have any of those. So even though she gets long in the toe, this is still just a regular maintenance trim. Alright, that one's done. So I'm just starting on this horse's left front. You can see it looks almost exactly the same as the right front that we just did. And picking out all the dirt first, making sure there's no little rocks in there. So you can already see how this piece of frog, it's like old frog laying on top of a new frog. So I'm actually gonna probably remove that first. Also help me dictate where I'm gonna finish with my heel height. Probably one of the most satisfying parts of the hoof to remove, the frog. Alright, and I don't want to go too deep on the frog. I just want to remove anything that's dead, any little flaps, anything that could harbor some fungus or some bacteria. So she is shedding some of her sole like some of the other horses. So there's some little lumps, but I don't want to go any further. Like if I kept going right here, you can see the material gets less chalky and it's hard to see because it's not sunny right here. But if we had the sun right there, it would start to look shiny right there in that area. And that's where the hoof is telling you to stop. Okay, you're getting close to live tissue and you don't need to take it down any further. So the next structure I like to take on this horse is her toe, because all 4 feet, including this front, tend to get a long toe. So I'm going to remove that excess wall height in the heel as well. And I'm going to rasp this foot down to balance it a bit more accurately. I could see this lateral heel is still a little high after I nipped it. Make sure that wall is smooth, remove any of my nipper marks. Take that quarter down a tiny bit more. I like the quarters to be slightly passive to the rest of the wall, as long as the foot dictates that I can do that. I'm starting my bevel a tiny bit, but just like on the other front, I would really like to do a vertical nip on this toe to bring it back without taking excess height. Okay, so that has shortened this horse's breakover quite a bit by bringing her toe back, which is also going to remove stress back in this area of the hoof where the deep digital flexor tendon attaches to the underside of the coffin bone. In this environment, the hooves just like to platter out because it's usually wet and the ground is soft. So it can be difficult to kind of stand them up and keep the heels where they're supposed to be. And a long toe will pull the heels forward, so I'll try to be mindful of all those things. Just gonna take this tiny little piece off of where the bar meets the heel, and some of that laid over, I use my loop knife for that. This is just laid over lamina, but see how it traps dirt? So anytime I see that, I want to just remove those little layers with my knife. Okay, that one's done from the bottom. Alright, so now I've got this hoof forward on the stand, and I'm basically just going to finish my bevel, because once again, this is a really beautiful bare hoof. She has a really nice, well-connected hoof wall. There aren't any flares. There's no dishing in the toe. So we're just kind of staying at maintenance level. And just before I started videoing, this horse let out a huge sigh and yawn, and I'm kind of annoyed that I didn't capture it. Next time. Oh, sweet girl. She's almost resting her head on my back. Very sweet little mare. Alright, that one's done. So this hoof might be a little bit more fun to trim. I can already see that there's some sole to remove, some patches of it that is still retained that she hasn't let go of herself. And once again, another frog that's exfoliating. Stick my hoof pick right in there. And that doesn't hurt the horse at all. She has a brand new baby frog underneath this old flap. Take my knife. I'm not liking that knife today. I'm liking this one a lot better. Okay, take that first flap. Take that second flap. Now we have a little bit over the central sulcus. And you have to be very careful when removing that on hind feet, because if you just pulled straight back, you could accidentally cut the horse right here. And we certainly don't want to do that. I'm going to get my straight blade knife out, and I'm going to take some of this sole off. Especially this big chunk right there. I love it when I get to do that. So satisfying. Alright, that's about all the sole that's going to come off of this horse. Don't want to dig any further than that. So now I'm going to take her wall, once again starting at the toe. I'm going to try to do things a little bit quickly because I think she's a little tired of standing. I know, but this horse has had a few issues in her hind end in the past, which have dramatically improved. Hold on, baby. I'm gonna adjust a little bit. I think I'm still. Had to do just a little adjusting of the camera because I moved my stand to a position where this horse would be more comfortable. So on her hinds, I really just focus on the toe. Sometimes I really don't touch her heels at all. I just focus on bringing the toe back because I know that's what's going to make her back stay comfortable. So I'm going to focus on that today too. The only thing I'll do is I'll balance the heels. Other than that, I pretty much leave her heels alone. That's hard to get with the camera. I'll get that with the rasp. So I'm going to do some smoothing of these sharp edges. And then I'm going to give her the hoof back. She's very politely asking for me to give it back to her. She's just kind of wiggling and putting a little bit of pressure on my left leg where she's not trying to pull it away, but she's also telling me she's not 100% comfortable anymore. Okay, so that's it for that hoof from the bottom, and now I'm going to finish that. Do a pretty strong bevel, and especially in the toe area from the top. Now I got this foot forward, and I'm really going to concentrate actually bringing this toe in a tiny bit more from the top. There was still a little bit of excess material from the bottom that I would have taken, but the camera that I'm using was so close to the hoof stand that I couldn't get my nippers in there. So I would have just nipped it off, but I didn't want to knock the camera over. So I knew I could do it from the top, and I also knew that this horse would be more comfortable with her foot pulled forward, so I thought I'd just finish it from the top. And that's just something you get to know the horses you work on over time and know the little things that they like and they dislike. And I know that about this mare based on the soreness she's had in her back in the past, that she's way more comfortable with her hoof pulled forward. So I try to accommodate her if I can. So that's pretty good. I think I'm gonna put that one down now. It is her right hind. And one thing that I think is pretty cool is that her wear patterns on every foot, they're symmetrical, which means that she's moving symmetrically very well, which means she's feeling pretty good. So I'm gonna take this toe off. Honestly, sometimes I just take off whatever part of the hoof is bothering me most. There's no rhyme or reason sometimes as to why I start in a specific spot. Okay, so more chunks of sole to come off of this foot as well. Just want to get some of that dirt out of that area that some people call the cat's ear. Okay, and like I said, I want to bring her heels back a little bit, like this heel is pushed forward a little bit. So I'm going to start on that side to bring it back, but I don't want to remove too much height, because if I remove too much height in the heel on this horse, it puts her at a negative plantar angle, and it over time causes her back pain. So I do as little, like I'm taking really soft swipes right now. I just want to bring the landing platform of those heels back. But I don't want to remove much height while I'm bringing them back. And then a lot of toe. On some horses, like I haven't done it on this horse for a while, but on some horses with really long toes, to try to bring them out of dysfunction, every once in a while I will start my bevel on the inside of the white line. And I did have to do that a few times on her to make her comfortable enough to move well enough to grow a healthy hoof. I don't recommend doing that on all horses, but when the horse really needs it, it's a good thing to do. As long as they have enough sole depth. Like, I don't want people to just run out and start trimming their horses inside the white line and be like, oh, I saw that on the female farrier, so I'm gonna go do that with my horse. I only do that in very specific cases when they really, really need it. Otherwise, don't do that. You can get yourself into trouble. You can make a horse sore if you do it on the wrong horse. Okay, so that looks pretty good from the bottom, and like the other hind, I'm gonna put a really strong bevel from the... So we had to pause the video for a second because the camera that I'm using got overheated. So we had to go put it in the fridge inside the house to cool it off. So here is part 2 of me trimming this hoof, this right hind on this horse. We're almost done. Just had to really smooth up the edges. I'm gonna float this quarter a little bit more because it's sitting a little bit higher than I would like, and I'd like it to be a little bit more passive. Make sure that's smooth without taking any height off my heels. And then I'm gonna finish this hoof from the front by putting, for sure, a strong bevel on that toe. Okay, that looks pretty good. Start beveling my toe from about 10 to 2 on the clock and carrying that bevel back to the quarters and the heels. Really making sure I take some of this extra material off. This horse is not very tall. I'm pretty sure she's under 14 hands. So like getting underneath her belly and like taking full strokes with the rasp doesn't quite fully happen. But she's a super good girl. She's lovely. She's just very small. That looks pretty good. I don't feel any sharp edges, but I brought that toe back a little bit, and I think that's done. All right, so here's how her hooves look after her trim. See, she still has a decent amount of heel, but we brought that toe back quite a bit. Same with this front hoof. And this horse, she has kind of a narrow chest. She's gaited. I think she's a Missouri Foxtrotter. That's all right. It's not scary. It's just a camera. And a lot of those gaited horses have a narrow chest. And because of that, they'll turn out a little bit. But she really doesn't. Every once in a while, she looks like she's turning out. But she has pretty good conformation. And here's a view of her hind feet. We're always constantly trying to bring that toe back and allow her to grow a little bit more heel. But she's doing really good. She's maintaining her hooves through her trims quite well. So I'm pretty pleased with how she's growing and wearing. And her overall comfort level is really good. So very happy with all that.